What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. All right, guys, congratulations. Y'all made it to Friday. I'm uploading this. Well, I'm not uploading. I'm filming this about 2 o'clock on Friday. So by the time this goes live, y'all should be heading home for your weekend, guys. So today's topic. Man, it's getting frustrating dealing with this coaching staff, guys. I hate to keep talking about the coaching staff, but I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch the Doug Pederson press conference today, but this guy's insistence on not trying to shake up this wide receiver core, I fear is going to get him fired. Let's jump into today's topic.
With the uncertainty at wide receiver right now, do you feel you have to make a move in terms of a practice squad player?
Okay, before we even jump into Doug Pederson's response, there's a few things I want to say. To begin with, I want to just go ahead and start with the question of the day. So, first off, leave me a comment and just tell me this. What is your opinion on shaking up the wide receiver room? We all know that we probably should have made a move for Robbie Anderson, but we didn't do it. Okay, I can support the front office and the coaching staff on that. If you felt that this upcoming NFL draft is loaded at wide receiver and you got so many picks that you're going to get it right eventually, I get it. Okay, I'd have personally made the move for a second-round pick. I get your standpoint. However, my question to you is, we didn't claim Josh Gordon. We didn't claim Dante Moncrief, which we could have had either one of those players, and either one of those players are upgrades over what we have. So we're sitting there with Alshon Jeffrey down, with Nelson Aguilar can't even catch a damn cold. So my question to you, would you not have called up a player from the practice squad, and who would you have called up if you would? Because to me personally, I would have given Greg Ward Jr. a shot this week with the slot receiver likely not going to play and him being on the practice squad now for 3 years. There's no way he doesn't understand the route tree and the progressions in the playbook. All right. Now, I will say this about Doug Pederson, okay? What he's about to respond, I'm not going to play too much into just because, you're not going to tip your hand too much for a common opponent. So maybe he's just light-footing around the situation because he doesn't want to give the image that maybe Aguilar or Jeffrey isn't going to play, so that way that this opponent doesn't get a leg up on them. At the same time, dude, it's Friday. Somebody should have been called up from the practice squad by Wednesday. It's ridiculous. All right, let's get to his response.
In this sport, in this game, you got to play sometimes a little beat up, and both these guys are tough guys and fully expect that.
Like I said, guys, I understand not wanting to tip your hand to your opponent, trying to make sure your opponent, until you've got to declare who is inactive for the game, doesn't have a beat on you, doesn't know whether or not Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar are going to play. Here's the thing. It's Friday. These guys haven't been right all week. It's really risky to assume at this point that these two guys are going to be goes for Sunday. You didn't call anyone up from the practice squad. The same mistake we made last week with the Jordan Howard situation, to where we should have had Ajayi in here by Wednesday at the latest. He should have probably been here by Tuesday because we probably should have signed him the Friday prior, knowing that, look, he's still not been cleared. You had to have had some, you had to have had some kind of knowledge that, look, there's a very high probability he's not going to play off the bye week, given the fact that he still hasn't been cleared. Come on. There's no way you didn't have some notion that this was a major probability. I like Doug Pederson. I think Doug Pederson is overall a good coach. But sometimes I think Doug Pederson is too smart for his own good. And I'm sorry, but if you're a head coach, designing plays and stuff is all great, but that's really what your offensive coordinator is kind of, you know what I mean? That's the role that they're supposed to have. And then I get that you're an offensive guy. I get that Bill Belichick has his hands on the Patriots defense. He's a defensive guy. You're an offensive guy. You got your hand. I get all that. But you know what? Bill Belichick is not derelict in his duties as an administrator. You are. You are a shitty administrator. And look, I get that he's a young coach who's pretty new to the role. That's why Jim Schwartz was brought in. I get all that. But these are mistakes that cannot happen. You can't be late to call guys up so that way they're not implemented in the game plan. Because that's the issue with waiting until a Friday or a Saturday to call a guy up from the practice squad. Is the issue with doing something like that is now, even though they might know the route progressions, they might understand the route tree, they might understand the playbook, You didn't have time to incorporate them into some kind of a role for the game plan. You can't keep having this happen. This is an administrative issue. It can't keep going on. It's ridiculous. He's not a good administrator, and that's a problem. I don't understand what more he needs to see to understand you've got to be more decisive in your decisions. We're stuck in this situation to where we have to ask ourselves, is this something he can overcome? Can he grow into being that administrator? I hope so for his sake, because I do think that he's a pretty creative coach. I think he's got some balls in game time situations at times. But, the ice cream socials and stuff, guys, it's got to go away. You got to be more of an administrator. You know what? You can be a player coach, but still instill that there are certain expectations you must meet. Not be derelict in your duties as an administrator and hold people accountable when they don't. You got to pull the rug out from under them. We're in the situation now where we've got to ask ourselves, is Doug that guy?
How much have injuries affected Alshon's performance this?
I thought that personally was a very fair question to ask him, because take that outside of Alshon Jeffrey, and just look at the wide receiver core in general. How badly mishandled it's been this season. We haven't cross-trained players that should have been cross-trained from the jump. We have players who've been injured for the majority of the season and failed to take action, whether that's through trades, waiver claims, or calling up players from the practice squad. It's a fair question. Let's see how he answers it.
I think injury, if you let it, mentally can affect anybody.
The one admirable aspect to Doug Pederson's personality is once you're one of his guys, he really doesn't turn his back on you. I mean, we can argue that, dude, at what point are you going to get through your damn head that Nelson Aguilar cannot track a football? You have at some point continuously putting him in that situation is to his detriment. It's like having a person who's got anxiety issues or something like that, or like, and you keep putting them in those positions to where they keep having those breakdowns. At some point, you're not helping the individual, you're harming them. Like, come on. When it comes to injuries, I think it's a tricky question. And I also think it's partially a cop-out on his part, even though I think he's trying to defend Alshon while still copping out on the question a little bit. Because on one end, he's trying to avoid blame on saying, like, hey, like, injuries happen in the football game, like, you just got to keep going. Well, there's a subtlety to that. Injuries do happen during the course of the season, and you got to have pain tolerance if you're going to play in the NFL. It's one of the bad things about the NFL that most people don't get is that these things, they last. They last for a long time, well after these guys have retired. And for some people, they might have to have this pain management going on for the rest of their lives because of this, the violence of the game in some instances. So what needs to be noted, though, guys, is in my opinion, there's a distinct difference between having lingering injuries to, like, in a wide receiver, to where, like, maybe you got a shoulder like he had the 1 year, maybe your hand or a finger gets broken or something, and you're playing through pain management. But on the other end, where I think he's trying to avoid, where there's avoidance from Doug Pederson, is when you're talking about injuries that are causing players to lose mobility, that are causing players to lose flexibility, where they cannot be as mobile, as explosive as they were, such as leg injuries to a wide receiver, which Alshon has fought the entire season, which then puts the spotlight back on the front office and Doug Pederson in the way that they've handled these injuries this season. This season has been a major disappointment in the way that we've handled rather typical things that happen in the course of an NFL season. Like, guys get injured. How you deal with it says more about you than it does the guys. You've known this receiving core has not been right. You can't handle what the front office does. I gather that. It's in your hands to look at what's going on with Nelson Aguilar and realize, like, okay, this fit isn't working out. It's not working out. He can't track the ball. Because of the injuries we have and our lack of response to those injuries, he can't play in the role that makes him productive. We have to have more out of him, and he's just not able to give us that. So we got to call guys up from the practice squad. We've got to go try to headhunt other players from other teams. It hasn't happened really, man. It hasn't happened. And for the life of me, I don't understand what this. I don't get what this coaching staff is waiting on. I don't. That's all I got for y'all today, man. Is that this wide receiver position, guys? It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm hoping that we've got enough, weapons out there to sustain the running game to take some pressure off of this passing game, and that guys do step up. I mean, we can bounce some guys here and there, guys. I mean, don't get me wrong. We saw Matt Collins definitely got reps inside the slot last week. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's been trained in the slot, so he can play some slot position. And we know that Jordan Matthews has experience in the slot. I'm just concerned that if these two guys can't go, if Aguilar can't go, or if Jeffrey goes, or even worse, if they get cleared, they get inserted into the lineup, and then they further aggravate the injuries that they have, then you're really limited. You got 3 guys. If anything else happens, you're screwed. It's a bad decision, man. This is a risky gamble we're taking. I got faith that Doug can get the play calling under control. I think that if you look at points into New England's game, in that New England game, that he did call pretty good plays that just weren't executed. I think that maybe you can criticize him for maybe the progressions he put into the plays, because if you look at the film, it's quite obvious that some of the guys that did get open at times were pretty late in the progressions that Doug Pederson built into that particular play, which means Wentz didn't get around to catching them when that window was open for them. That's kind of a problem. But those things are, you look in the film, you see that, and you can fix that quite easily. However, not having guys where you start getting into an availability issue, that's a problem. That's all I got for y'all today. All I'm going to do now is, guys, ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. Once again, my name is Steven Hyder. This is Gate City Sports Channel. And look, it's rough, but we're not out of this, guys. We've got to fight this week, because if we beat Seattle, the projection of the season looks a lot different heading into that Thanksgiving week. We can all eat turkey with joy. All right, y'all. You know what time it is. EADLES. All we need to do is just win this game at home versus Seattle, who is traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast with one of the most dynamic playmakers, I'll admit it, at quarterback. We win that game, and the season output does look drastically different. All right, guys, I'm out here. Peace.